Hello and welcome to the Performance Physique podcast. My name is Arj and I am your head coach. This podcast is all about helping you with your running, your nutrition and your training. We take the jargon out of sports science to help you realise your goals faster than ever before. Let's get started.
So research out this week suggests a walk a day could prevent 1 in 10 premature deaths, which is a startling figure. Walking backwards, if you turned around and did it on the treadmill, how would that go? How would that go then? Some experts claim it could burn up to 40% more energy compared to walking forwards at the same speed. Now, again, I'll just reiterate what I said five minutes ago. We're about to talk about the virtues, whether there are virtues, all about walking backwards. But if you are going to give this a go after you've heard this interview, A, I'd always say check with your doctor before you start doing anything. B, you've got to do this safely. And as I mentioned to you in the first hour, I know I'm at the age now that if I stood on the shoreline and a small wave came in, I'd get confused and fall over backwards, Harry Hill style. So walking backwards without holding on to something, I don't know if it would go well for me. So you've got to do this safely. All right, I'll just put that out there before we start. But let me introduce you to Arj Tirochowvam, who is head coach at Performance Physique in Solihull, and he's on to talk about walking backwards. It sounds so bizarre. Morning to you, Arj.
Good morning, Molly. Thanks for having me on.
How are you doing this morning? Have you woken up in fine fettle?
I have indeed, yes.
Good.
Accompanied by my cat, obviously.
Oh, have you got a cat on your lap as you're doing the interview?
Just by my side.
Oh, that's nice. That's perfect. Perfect. So, walking backwards. Arj, when I first heard this, I thought it was comedic until I realised it Ministry of Silly Walks, until I realised that there could possibly be some health benefits. I mean, let's talk about the burning more energy by walking backwards first up. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so it's like one of those things which we see quite often popularised. There are definite benefits to walking backwards. I use it with some of my athletes. When it comes down to the burning more calories part, this is something which the particular actual research study didn't make a big kind of claim about, because those benefits actually only lasted up to 12 bouts of exercise. So basically after around 12 exercise sessions of walking backwards, they actually burnt the exact same amount as walking forwards. And all of this really came down to this thing of familiarity. And like you were just saying, we don't really travel backwards too often. Therefore, when something's a little bit unfamiliar to us, we will generally be less efficient and burn a few more calories. But that extra calorie burn, that 40%, which that one researcher mentioned, didn't last very long, to be honest. So if you're doing this for calorie burning, there's no need, basically. Just continue with your normal walking.
Forwards.
Other health benefits, though, do exist.
Well, can we talk, first up, neurology? I mean, I skim-read this and I watched a couple of YouTube videos in the week just to sort of find out a bit more about it. I was startled with the neurology behind it. It makes sense that obviously you walk forward with your eyes shut. Obviously not with your eyes shut, but with your eyes closed. But that's just what we've always done since we learned to walk. You have to be more spatially aware. You're going to be using different parts of your brain. It's actually a bit of a brain workout to do that successfully.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called proprioception. And this is something which we notice is kind of left behind in our development after we get past the age of about 5, unless we go into particular sports training. And this is effectively working on balance and understanding your surroundings. So understanding your surroundings and being able to visualize things allows us to respond and adapt with our movements. And the more kind of practice or play realistically we had as a child tends to find that we're better as adults. Now, you can improve these things as we get on, as we get older. These can be simple things like hopping. It doesn't have to be walking backwards, but walking backwards, because you don't get that visual stimulus, you can't see what's coming, does help with that.
On You've Been Framed, you see it very often, don't you, that it's always the old ladies, bless them, that take a few steps back, but then sort of get a bit confused, stagger backwards and fall over. That's obviously outlining what you've just said. We don't use that bit of spatial awareness ordinarily. So walking backwards, that's going to improve our stability and spatial awareness then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just one of those things where you don't really have a lot of opportunities to practice it. Definitely don't do this down the road or anything like that. This needs to be in a really contained area, and a lot of people do perform it on the treadmill, and that again isn't actually going to give you a lot of variety in the floor itself. So there would probably be better scenarios, better training stimuluses to improve yourself from featuring on You've Been Framed. Than
well, you do get £250. That's the upside.
Yeah.
Which I find staggering. But you're so right. On a serious note, for God's sake, don't try this on the pavement along the Bristol Road. What about knee health? If you've got bad knees,
yeah, this is the area where I tend to use it with athletes. So basically, your utilization of your muscles tends to be quite unbalanced as we get older, and we've kind of preferred certain movements or some certain lack of movements. Walking forwards, obviously. And as we get older, we also tend to notice certain issues and inflammation potentially around the knee joint occurs. And walking backwards tends to reduce that amount of inflammation and pressure around the kneecap. And that is one of the key reasons, realistically, to perform movement backwards. And also, not to leave it out, you don't want to leave them out, but lateral movement, moving sideways, we're actually really rubbish at doing that as kind of sedentary adult populations outside of sports. So making sure you do some side lunges or side steps, as well as going backwards and forwards, will actually improve the health of your knees, your quadriceps, which is the muscle on the front of your thigh, and your hamstring, the muscle on the back.
Oh, my goodness, yes. I mean, you see footballers doing it when they warm up on the sidelines.
Exactly.
And we all used to do it at school, but yeah, you're right. Yeah. Nobody walks or sort of skips sideways in adulthood, really, do they?
No, not at all. It's really important, actually.
Yeah. Lower back as well. I was reading, as well as knees, lower back, maybe strengthened or helped or protected. What's the thinking around that?
So basically, when we look at the human body, we isolate one area and say, this is my problem area. Everything works as a chain, actually. And a lot of lower back issues aren't necessarily back pain, but actually a restriction or a weakness within your hamstrings, the muscle on the back of your thigh, and your glutes, your bum muscles, basically. So again, by being able to move these areas of your body a little bit more, you improve your mobility, and also you give it the opportunity to develop a little bit more muscle mass. Now, we shouldn't always think of injuries as needing a stretch. We actually need to strengthen most of the time. Stretch is a very small part of the issue.
It's so fascinating. Your job is so fascinating. The human body is so fascinating. And you're so right. If you have like a limp or if you have a bad back, the knock-on effect that will move down or up your body to other areas. Yeah, it's all, as you say, it's all a big chain. How would you say, for people listening to you thinking, oh, well, I'll give that a go, unless they're in the presence of a professional such as yourself, Arj, how would they go about doing this safely? And how would they do it? What would they do and how would they do that safely?
I think in order to kind of improve your general well-being, you don't need to do an awful lot, and it doesn't need to be too complex. We see all these moves on social media, and to be honest, they look more like a choreographed dance than anything which is going to improve your well-being. If you're looking to just improve your mobility of your lower back and improve a little bit of these aches and pains, just performing a 10 to 15 minute walk first thing in the morning, ideally outside, because you get some sunlight, which is going to improve your mood for the rest of the day. And then following that up with a couple of hops, if you can manage, if you haven't got any joint pain, which is significant at the moment, by performing a couple of hops forwards and backwards, left to right, and I only really refer to about 10 to 15 repetitions of these. It's not a high number. That will immediately start improving your ankle mobility and teaching your tendons to absorb some pressure. So just simple things like that will immediately help. And also, although I've said about the negatives of social media, YouTube is a fantastic resource. If someone types in 4-minute mornings on YouTube, I've got something like 300 4-minute kind of exercise routines just to start your day off. And it's not necessarily about burning a sweat or anything like that. It's actually just being a little bit more movement focused to get rid of that pain and stiffness that some of us experience in the morning.
I'm just Googling this. Is this your YouTube channel?
It is mine, yes. Performance Physique.
4-minute... Oh, I was going to put warning in there, like it was the end of the world. A 4-minute morning.
It's not that, I promise.
We're all doomed. Oh, yes, there you are. Oh, I shall look at that a little bit later on. Oh, that looks brilliant. Oh, you've got a lot of followers. Well done. That's brilliant. And I did see on something on YouTube the other day, if you are elderly or you are worried about your mobility, even sort of if you do it in your kitchen, if you go backwards and hang on to your kitchen counter, and even if you do 10 steps backwards and then turn round, every little bit helps, doesn't it?
It really does. And you mentioned the other study which was on the news the other day
about going out for a walk.
Exactly. I mean, it's so beneficial, and yet we look at kind of walking as this minimal exercise, and we should be doing runs and hikes and all these kind of things. Going for a walk and just getting a few steps in is so valuable, and it really doesn't take a lot of preparation. So despite, popular professors certainly at the moment who are talking about exercise doesn't do anything for your weight loss, et cetera, they're speaking a little bit out of context, because doing these little bits of movements can really, really help our health and our kind of longevity. And we also find that these kind of starting behaviors lead to other health-seeking behaviors. So basically, by doing that one walk a day might lead to you doing a couple of different kinds of exercise throughout the week, and might even change your eating habits. So go for it.
It's been lovely speaking to you this morning, Arsh. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Likewise, Molly.
Yeah, really nice.
Me.
Oh, we'll have you again if that's all right.
Absolutely, never a problem.
All right, brilliant. Head coach at Performance Physique in Solihull. Arsh, lovely to have you on. Have a smashing weekend.
And you. Cheers, Molly.
Thanks, lovely. Oh, and stroke your cat's ears for me, won't you?
I will.
Thanks, my love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, he was smashing, wasn't he? Arj Tiruchauvan, head coach at Performance Physique.
Thank you very much for listening to the Performance Physique podcast. Don't forget, you can find us on Instagram. It's at performance_physique. You can find us on Facebook, Performance Physique, or if you just head to performancephysique.co.uk, and we'll do our very best to help you. It will mean the world to me, though, if you can share this podcast with one friend this week. Right, for now, take care.